And we are back. How are you?
Good. It's the weekend for us now.
Yes, yes. And we have hit November. It is the second day of November. We had Halloween, which I definitely want to talk about with you in the talk of shame, see how that was for you. But in the meantime, we have some obscene things to talk about today.
We do. Tell us about these obscenities.
Yes. Well, I gave you some hints last time, but I will go ahead and introduce ourselves first. Welcome to Forbidden, the podcast where we discuss the disgusting, the dark, and the disgraceful in our unmentionables. That's right, we've slipped into something more comfortable and hope you're doing the same, listener, and hope you have a nice beverage in hand. Today I'm drinking an Aura Bora, which is a sparkling water, but naturally, I'm not just drinking the Ora Bora. I have vodka mixed in with this. So,
Shocking.
yeah, yeah. And pray tell, what are you have going on there?
I am drinking it's a Bloody Mary-esque, although I was lacking a few ingredients I realized at the last moment. So it is tomato juice and pepper and vodka.
Well, as long as it has vodka in there, I'm sure that it'll be fine and satiate you for the next 30 minutes or so that we have
Yes.
together. Or hopefully so. But my drink has absolutely nothing to do with the hints that I gave last week. I gave the hints of cult, actor, and Northeast. To be more specific, whenever, to be, just very transparent, whenever I was giving my hints, I couldn't remember what part of the Northeast it was. I was pretty sure it was New York, but I didn't want to put it in my hints unless it were true. So to get more a little more pinpointed and specific, it is New York. So cult, actor, and New York.
Okay.
Yeah. Any ideas?
I do have a thought.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I can't remember the name of the cult, but I'm pretty sure I know where this
Yes.
is going.
Okay. Well, today, listeners and Blake, we are going to be talking about the NXIVM Corporation.
Yes.
Is that what you thought it was? Okay. Just a little about the NXIVM Corporation before we get started. It was based in the Albany, New York area and had centers throughout the United States, Canada, and Mexico, so quite a reach. The subsidiary companies of NXIVM recruited based on the multi level marketing model, and we'll discuss kind of what that is a little bit later, and used curriculum based on the intellectual property of a gentleman called Keith Raniere. His intellectual property was called rational inquiry. Their courses attracted a variety of notable students, including actors as well as the children of the rich and powerful. And at its height, NXIVM had 700 active members. And I'd like to point out that when I say actors in this, I am talking about more so B to C list actors. There were never any major, like film stars, that were involved in this. And this has absolutely nothing to do with religion, by the way. This is a cult that is specifically built on this principle of the intellectual property of rational inquiry and how it got started and bettering yourself. But the tenets of, kind of what the cult members went through were very close to a lot of different religions that we'll talk about. But at its height, it had 700 active members. So quickly, we're going to talk about Keith Raniere, who was born in New York City. That was their leader. And so he was often said to be a very gifted child as he was growing up. Apparently, they said that he had one of the highest IQs ever recorded for a child, spoke 3 languages before he could read and write. So, a very gifted child, or so it seemed. He had a darkness, though, to him his whole life and adolescence. He constantly had to have girls around him, even in his adolescent times and teenage years. And he would manipulate women, basically love bomb them to control them, make them think that they were the only ones that were with him, when in fact he was seeing multiple women at any given time. So he was kind of one of those players who would love bomb and try to control women. So started this at a pretty young age. Some people think that those accomplishments, such as the highest IQ and the 3 languages, were embellished, and that he really wasn't as intelligent as he had made others to believe. So, textbook narcissists in the beginning, and this led to his sort of foray into that multi-level marketing model. And so the multi-level marketing is sometimes called more so like a pyramid scheme. And he started learning about pyramid schemes and got that knowledge by first working when he was a young adult with Amway. Do you know what Amway is?
I do. I remember Amway.
Yeah, so it was a multi-level marketing company where, you could, and they sold products like house cleaning products and those sorts of things. And basically what the idea was is that you signed up to sell Amway, got your friends sort of hooked on the products, then you would encourage your friends to sign up to sell Amway, then you would make money off of whomever purchased from them. And it's one of those, as they say, pyramid schemes. So he got his start with Amway and started his own company called Consumer Byline. And he built that into a $35 million company. Government organizations, though, started investigating his scam, and he cut a deal with prosecutors to remain out of prison for Consumer Byline. And Consumer Byline was also about buying different types of products and those sorts of things. So it wasn't about any sort of self-help or anything like that, which actually morphed into NXIVM, later on. But what really did start, the ball rolling for NXIVM was in 1997. He and Tony Natali, who was his girlfriend at the time, started a company called the National Health Network. And it was another MLM that dealt with like supplements and stuff like that. And while they were selling said supplements, they met a woman named Nancy Salzman who came into one of their stores. She was involved in pseudoscience, but really was no doctor, had no degree, wasn't a psychologist, but was a master manipulator. They paired up with her to then start the Executive Success Programs, which was called ESP, in 1998 together. So the goal of ESP was to help people reach their potential and gain a professional edge. So this would be what would later become NXIVM. And NXIVM is actually spelled NXIV, so has some of that older, like
Like a Roman numeral.
Roman numerals in it and stuff like that. So it's NXIVM, but it's called NXIVM, not to be confused with the over-the-counter drug called NXIVM that I believe deals with like acid reflux and those sorts of things. So first, NXIVM was geared toward business people. They would go to offices to make workers more productive, promote team building, those fun things, and help people learn tools for success. But then this morphed into an idea that he thought that he could change the world with this. So followers ended up living in a world based on the teachings of him, and then therefore NXIVM was born. People would pay thousands of dollars for courses to, deal in a level of self-improvement or self-actualization. Nancy Salzman was referred to as the prefect to everyone. So, and he was referred only to as Vanguard. And the reason being is that, like in so many cult situations, and then people are actually being set up for these type of situations, you want somebody to call you something that takes you away from your own true persona, and you create this persona where people think that you are better than them, so they will listen to you. Um, he tells members that they are merely human and that he's above them.
Cool.
So
People
next,
for it.
yeah, sign me up. So basically, when you were indoctrinated into NXIVM, it started with the 5 days of marathon sessions. People were first made to feel very special and learning the main tools of NXIVM. One was with one of the tools or tenets that they used was, quote, if you are comfortable, you aren't working on anything.
Sounds
So,
nice.
yeah, I must be working on stuff all the time because I'm uncomfortable on the daily.
Same.
Yeah, so the tenets of NXIVM, I'm almost on board, number one. But the purpose behind these 5-day sessions were really to break people down. If people or families were attending together, so let's say you and I attended this 5-day marathon session, they would often separate them, and everyone was made to wear white sashes around their neck area. And after the initial sessions, more were offered. Now, and these sessions too weren't inexpensive, right? I mean, these were sessions where they were basically holding these people from like 8 o'clock in the morning through like 9 or 10 o'clock at night. You're
Ew.
learning all of this stuff. You're paying like $10,000 to be there. But after those initial classes, of course, you could take more classes to earn stripes on your sashes. That led to becoming coaches or proctors. But you had to buy your way up to the top, like I said. It was a similar structure to Scientology. And so if you wanted to move up within the organization and become a coach or a proctor or, getting into those higher levels, well, of course, that meant paying for more classes, which meant more money for the organization.
Of course.
Yeah. And members were encouraged to enroll new people in the program. So they targeted, like I said, sort of B-list, maybe C-list actors, actresses, musicians, etc., with a small location in Hollywood. One of their very famous members, well, not she wasn't truly famous, but became famous. A very famous member of theirs was Allison Mack. She was from an actor on Smallville. And
Hmm.
she was the one of the top recruiters. We'll get more into that in a bit. They saw the entertainment industry as a gold mine, not unlike Scientology. And this is when they started their major expansion. Women were very attracted to Raniere's charm and charisma. He had a habit of bringing women into his social circle. Again, he would convince them they were the only ones that were actually sleeping with him. But he was sleeping with dozens of women at any given time who were attending his programs. So, but it was kind of on the down low. But in a way, this turned into a group of ladies that were known to be in the inner circle. So, which meant that they were performing special favors for Vanguard.
Such as what, Amanda?
Oh, I don't know. Could it be sexual favors? Could it be submissive? Who knows? Well, we'll get into that in a moment. So, around this time when it was getting more popular, Claire and Sarah Bronfman, who were the heiresses to the Seagram's organization. So let's think for a minute being an heiress to the Seagram's organization. How nice that would be, how much money you would have, and how like much time you probably have on your hands. Well, these two sisters found out about the group and were immediately drawn to Vanguard's charisma and the organization. They had grown up in their father's shadow and thought that this could be a place where they could shine. So basically, they joined the organization and were, in essence, bankrolling the entire organizations by paying to work their way up to heal the world. Their father was absolutely incensed by their participation, and he became one of the first public enemies of the group. And these public enemies are going to be the ones that eventually help take it down. Some, though, who went to improve their lives ended up ending their lives, particularly ones who had standing mental issues. So there was this level of excellence that was, expected of everyone, just as a cult, would be. So there were a number of people who they didn't get into the real specifics of like what they did, but some of them, after they had attended, the 5-day sessions and or more of the sessions and got more involved, actually committed suicide. Some of them disappeared. So there are, kind of like conspiracy theories over were they murdered, that sort of thing, because they knew too much about the organization. But the Bronfman sisters really became heavily involved in the NXIVM Corporation. So it kind of grew into several related organizations. One was called Jeunesse, which was a society aimed at women, while the Society of Protectors was aimed primarily at men. A third group, though, was known by the acronym DOS, DOS, short for Dominus Obsequious Sororium, which, according to one member, means master over slave women.
Sounds like a Depeche Mode song.
Right. Sounds interesting to me. I'd probably get caught up in this whole DOS thing if I were like getting into a cult. So DOS was a very secretive and very hidden part of the NXIVM corporation, and it involved a master slave over women. And it wasn't just him who was at the top, Vanguard who was at the top. He had a line of women underneath him who reported straight to him, one being Allison Mack, some being the Bronfman sisters. And then what they would do is recruit women. It was sort of a secret society. And then those women became slaves to them, who then made them. So it was like multi-level marketing of slaves to the women who were then put him in front of him. So a little bit dirty.
Interesting business model.
Very interesting business model, and a real way to, grow your master slave network very quickly. But starting with reports by Frank Parlato in June 2017 and bolstered by an October 2017 article in the New York Times, details began to emerge about DOS, that secret society of women that started in 2015 within NXIVM, in which female members were allegedly called slaves. They were branded with the initials of Raniere and Mack, subject to corporal punishment from their masters, and required to provide nude photos or potentially damaging information about themselves as collateral. And law enforcement representatives have alleged that DOS members were forced into sexual slavery. So when they branded them in these branding ceremonies, they branded them with KR, his name, or his initials, marking them as members for life. And it was obviously always women. There were never men who were branded like this. So basically, when they were branded, they would have to be branded actually 50 to 100 times over the course of a half an hour. So it almost looked like, from what I could tell, from the documentary that I watched. It almost looked like it was like a cauterizer or something like that, rather than an actual like brand, as you think of the cattle being branded. So they were like cauterizing their skin over the course of a half an hour, which you can imagine without any anesthetic or anything like that would be horrifically painful. The brands were usually on the hips, close to the pubic area. But if they quit the organization or this, specific DOS area of the organization, they feared that they would lose everything because they've already lost their money. They've handed over all of their money for this, but they had these incriminating images, information about them. And so they were basically being blackmailed to stay and perform these sexual acts.
Did you say that they were initialed with or branded with both of their initials?
Yeah, so one said that it was both of their initials, but it says most of them were branded with KR. So I don't know where Mac comes into that. But
But
she oversaw all of the brandings. So maybe that's where the confusion is on the different areas of information.
if they were branded with both, it would be KRAM. Cram.
Cram. And if it's on their hip bone, cram it up there.
It's a call to action, is what it is.
Yes, yes. One of the first people who got branded was India Oxenberg. She was the daughter of actor Catherine Oxenberg, and she was Josh would know her. She was a actor in the late 80s. She was on dramas like Dynasty and stuff like that, but never had like full on roles, or were very, knowledge. She wasn't as knowledgeable as a lot of the characters, but she also descends from royalty in Europe. But her daughter, India Oxenberg, got into this very heavily, and she actually feared for her life and fought for a couple of years to get her out of this cult. But she was the first person to be branded. Members of DOS were subject to be available at all times via text, no matter what time of day. They were withheld food. They had paddling with leather paddles, which, I mean, I don't necessarily mind sometimes, but they also made them do things like stand in the snow, naked for periods of time, just basic cruel things to continue to break them down. Another purported study that Porter conducted within the NXIVM community was described as they were made to watch disturbing footage, including video of people being murdered, while their brain waves, physiological activity, and facial and auditory responses were recorded through electroencephalography, which is galvanic skin response, and video recording. So they were subjected to watch really disturbing things, and then they would, actually put, things on them to measure, what was going on. So after this New York Times article came out, and then again, a Forbes article came out as well, the authorities started researching this a little bit more. And just like in every cult situation, somebody's going to go down and somebody's going to start whistleblowing about it. So all of this, so Sarah Edmondson, who was a Canadian actress, said that she left NXIVM after Mac inducted her into the DOS at her Albany home. She alleged participants were blindfolded naked, held down by Mac and 3 other women, and branded, like I said, with the cauterizing pin. And so she was one of the first people who actually came out and exposed them. And Catherine Oxenberg, who was India Oxenberg's mom, also did an interview with 2020 because she had lost touch with her daughter. And several other members reported financial and sexual predation by NXIVM leaders, and some of them actually ended up escaping. So that was in 2017 when the shit started hitting the fan a little bit and people started leaving. So in March of 2018, Raniere was arrested and indicted on charges related to DOS, including sex trafficking conspiracy, and conspiracy to commit forced labor, as well as racketeering. He was actually on the run by this time and was arrested in Mexico and held in custody in New York after appearing in federal court in Fort Worth, Texas. The indictment alleged that at least one woman was coerced into sex with him, who then, and that all the members were forced to undergo that branding ritual. So coercing them with the threat of releasing, their information, all that kind of stuff, he was charged for. And then on April 20th of 2018, which was about a month later, Mack was arrested and indicted on several charges similar to Raniere's, because she recruited women first into NXIVM and then into DOS. And she was basically paid by Raniere to coerce them into engaging in sexual activity with Raniere. So they were released on bond pending trial, but they were eventually found guilty. There were guilty pleas and convictions for more of them. On March 13th of 2019, Nancy Salzman, which was one of the co-creators of this, she pled guilty to a charge of racketeering criminal conspiracy, and she agreed not to contest related assets, the forfeiture of assets, including a real estate portfolio. And then Lauren Salzman pleaded guilty to racketeering and racketeering conspiracy. She later testified against Raniere and received leniency. Allison Mack stated that she entered proffer sessions. The government credited her for providing relevant emails, documents, and recordings later used to convict Raniere. She pled guilty to racketeering and racketeering conspiracy. And then Bronfman's pleaded guilty to charges of harboring an illegal immigrant and identity fraud. So a number of people were found guilty. And the status as of February 2023, which was the earliest that I could really, or latest I could really find on what was going on with all of these people, is that Keith Raniere is still incarcerated in Tucson at a U.S. penitentiary. Allison Mack spent 3 years in prison, and she was released on July 3rd of 2023. Claire Bronfman spent 81 months in prison and is currently incarcerated at Danbury Federal Corrections Facility, which I believe is the inspiration for Orange is the New Black.
Oh.
Yeah. Lauren Salzman got 5 years of probation. Nancy Salzman got 42 months in prison and was released on March 19th, 2024. But yeah, basically there were civil lawsuits. Then, after all of this, NXIVM is now defunct, as it should be. But yes, that is the story of NXIVM, the cult that paired very closely to religious cults in the way that they operated their organization, but had a lot of obscene practices going on behind the curtain of self-improvement.
Yeah, I had forgotten a lot of that, to be honest. I forgot about the connection to Seagram's, and if I'd remembered that, I would have bought some Seagram's gin
Yes.
with this story.
Yeah. Can you imagine how much money those girls had? I'm surprised. They must have had trust funds or something like that couldn't be broken or something, because I'm surprised that since their dad was so mad about them being, I mean, my parents would go ape shit if they gave me like millions and millions of dollars in a trust and I went and joined a cult and started giving the cult money. Like, they would cut me off like that. So there must have been a reason that he couldn't cut off their funds or something like that, because they were bankrolling essentially that organization.
Yeah. So this is also 2 stories in a row where people have been branded.
Mm-hmm.
In mine, it was with a knife. Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
But a cauterizing pin, that sounds really horrible.
I have to look that up. Oh, it's just like...
It basically, you drag it down your skin and it burns it.
So they use it to like remove moles and stuff.
But I'm sure when they do that to remove moles, they probably use some sort of anesthetic of some sort.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some sort of like a local or something,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's creepy.
These kind of cults always just fascinate me, how quickly some people can get indoctrinated into this sort of, self-help, be broken down. The amount of money that people, like, where do you get the money to do this? Because people would drop tens of thousands of dollars to move up into these programs and stuff like that. I'm like, where does one get the money to do this?
Yeah. Seagrams.
Seagrams, yes, of course. Well, Seagrams, that's obvious, but like the normal lay person, who gets into these organizations, or even like a more religious one like Scientology, where you have to pay to play.
Yeah.
I think Mormonism is kind of a pay to play too. I think that you have to donate to the church to hit like different levels to get to heaven, or what they call the celestial kingdom or something like that.
Yeah.
But perhaps we can talk more about that in our religious series.
So did I ever tell you I worked for...
The Church of Scientology?
No, I worked for Arbonne.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, in college, my friend John, his mom, I shouldn't say worked for them, but I like joined.
Signed up for their MLM. Yeah.
Yeah, my friend John, his mother was part of that program. And so he was like, "Oh, you've got to do this with me. We can make so much money." And I was like, "All right, well, I'll try." Like, I didn't have high expectations for earning, but it's like, if I could like supplement a little bit of money while I'm in college, like,
Why not? Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't go anywhere. We bought a bunch of product and spent more money than we made. So
I actually, and isn't that the goal of those organizations for the most part? But I actually used to use Arbonne products because I had a friend who was selling it, who was trying to get me to sell it, but I didn't fall into that trap.
yeah,
But the products were actually good.
I liked them.
Yeah.
They're still around.
Are they really?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
As far as I can tell, yeah.
Mm-hmm. There's that, and there's that Rodan and Fields. I almost got sucked into selling that. It's the people who did Proactive. Remember Proactive? Like it was like targeted. They always did ads on like MTV and stuff like that. And it was the dermatologist behind it. It was like acne focused and that kind of stuff. And then they kind of branched off and did this site called Rodan and Fields, because those were the doctors' names. And it's very much like Arbonne, skincare, those sorts of things.
Yeah.
And I know a few people who actually, like in Arkansas, got fairly wealthy off of, these MLM situations, but I just don't think, and I think it, there's like a certain percentage of people that net something from it, and the rest just make no money, and or, like you said, spend more money than it was worth to product that they're now holding.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Arbonne didn't have any like religious side or anything to it. And
No, not that I'm aware of.
yeah.
It's product, just pyramid products.
Yeah. I do remember Amway though. I remember someone trying to get my parents to do Amway when I was a kid. And they didn't fall for it.
Yeah.
But I remember them being taken to like an Amway conference, like sort of situation. I think it was like in Kansas City, Missouri or something like that. And they didn't do it. Although, yeah, my parents don't really seem like the salesy type people.
Yeah. So there's like product MLMs, which we've talked about. There's this cult, like torture sex MLM. It's gonna be like a fun sex MLM though, not one that is like torture and like breaking you down.
Yeah. Anyone that's really building you up.
Yeah, maybe we should start that.
Yeah. Think about that. See what names people could call us. I just thought Vanguard and Proctor sound weird.
Yeah.
Vanguard?
Yeah, that's stupid.
Yeah, could definitely come up with something better than that, for sure.
I was gonna chat GPT.
I mean, what does Vanguard even mean? I think there's a securities firm called Vanguard.
Okay, here we go. So chat GPT says, here are some good names, or some good titles for us. The Grand Sovereign,
Uh-huh.
High Chancellor of the Realm, Supreme Keeper of the Lands. Oh, this is fun. This is good for us. Lord and Lady of the 5 Provinces.
Oh, I like that.
I don't know which 5 provinces and where they are, but it sounds nice.
We'll just make up our own provinces.
Yeah. Here's the Supreme Oracle, First Commander of the People. Oh no, this is it. Master and Mistress of the 4 Winds.
Yes.
I think that's the one.
Master and Mistress of 4 Winds. There we have. And we have it.
All right, listener, join us.
Yes.
It's going to be sexy.
Yes.
And we're going to make money off of you.
And like we're going to make lots of money off of you, but it's going to be fun. It's not.
We're going to have sex with you, but you're going to like it.
Yeah. But yeah, that's what I've got for NXIVM.
Oh, that was fun. It's a fun little refresh. And I'd forgotten about like the DOS side of it and all that.
Must have been a very, very special secretive society. Can you imagine? I just can't imagine like servicing someone whenever they needed it, whether, it'd be sexual or not.
Unless they were
if you're a billionaire.
Yeah.
I mean, it's different.
So this is the exact opposite. You're giving them everything you have, and then you have to service them.
Yeah. That is like
get it backwards.
Polar opposite of what I would do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's the moral of this story.
Yeah. Don't pay to service people.
Get paid.
Get paid to service people. Oh, well, Blake, where can people continue to listen and watch us and do all those fun things?
You can do these things and more. YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. And please rate, review, and subscribe if you haven't already. Do it right now. You could click a button and be doing exactly what I'm telling you to be doing right now.
Yes. Do what Vanguard says.
Yes, the Master of the Winds.
Master of the Winds says.
I'll blow you. That's where Master of the Winds comes from. And then you can follow us on all 4 of the winds, including TikTok, Instagram, Facebook,
and the forbiddenpod.com.
And the forbiddenpod.com. Yes, where you can find practically naked photos. You can listen. You can do all sorts of things. Or you can email us at hello@theforbiddenpod.com and send us funds.
Yes. Send us funds. We need to start up this organization. We're ready. We have a plan. We're going to be good to you. We're going to be good to everybody. It's going to be full of super sexual contacts.
Join us.
Join us. Well, Blake, thank you so much for listening to the tale of NXIVM today.
Amanda, thank you for sharing it.
Yes. And listeners, as always, we
Thank you.
you.